had flown to New Jersey. Ashley and I had a baby shower on Saturday. I was already dreading the flight because it was Friday the 13th. That was the day, like, everything, like, shut down here. Like, they shut down schools. And I was, like, packing my bag, like, should I even be flying? I took a red eye, so I flew in. I got in Saturday morning. And on Saturday, they shut everything down in New Jersey. It was pretty scary for me, like, being out there when everything was shut down, because I was like, I don't know if I should be here. I was afraid I was going to get stranded in Jersey and I was going to have to live out of my suitcase, and I didn't want to do that. So I changed my flight to 2 days earlier than I was supposed to leave. And
Alyssa lives in Poway, California. She flew home March 20th, 1 week after the nationwide emergency was declared due to the COVID-19 virus, and things were changing fast.
Being at the airports were terrifying. Like, it was weird to see that, like, start of it, and I was like, oh my god, you know, people around me are starting to wear masks and I don't have one. I had, like, wet wipes. I just tried to clean everything that I had to use. Even the plane, I would say there was no more than 25 people on that flight, and I had a good, like, 5 rows, like, completely around me to myself. Usually it's crazy to try to find your ride if someone's coming to pick you up. And I'm like the only person in the front waiting for a car to be picked up. I'm like, this is the craziest thing ever.
On today's episode, I talk with my friends about their 2020 experience. We recorded these interviews via Zoom in January. All of my guests are in their early 30s, most in New Jersey. Alyssa and our friend Gori are in California, and I chatted with Paige in Delaware. You might recognize some voices from the Meet Cute episode, and you'll hear me chatting with the guests here and there. I haven't seen my friends in person since 2019. We all live in different places and have different schedules, but like most people, we took advantage of video chats early on. And we still schedule a group video call now and then. We've celebrated birthdays and holidays on Facebook Messenger, playing games and watching movies, and using a lot of video filters. So it was different to talk to them about something a bit more serious, something we have varying opinions on, but everyone was up for it. Now, none of us are scientific professionals or working in the medical field, so these views and experiences of the pandemic are from a fellow citizen's point of view.
I'm a receptionist at a grooming salon, and we were closed in mid-March. We opened again May 1st. There was a lot more, like, cleaning procedures we had to follow. I mean, and even customers have given us masks, like, donated them to us, which is nice. Or, like, this one guy came in with, like, 8 little things of hand sanitizer and, like, gloves, and he's like, here, I thought you could use these. So, like, that's been nice. Like,
I currently work at a daycare. So in February, I'm in a 3.5 to 4-year-old classroom. It was 18 kids in a classroom. Technically, my last day at work was Friday before St. Patrick's Day. We reopened June 22nd. I have to social distance, 15 kids in my class, 2-year-olds and 4-year-olds. So that age difference is like a hot mess for us.
I opened my own film business in May of 2019, and before May of the following year, in 2020 March, we already shut everything down. It already requires a lot of hours in front of the computer, editing, doing administrative work, planning shoots, stuff like that. So the time that I spent on set is usually somewhat minimal already anyway. However, still lost multiple clients in that time anyway, because either their services had shut down or their budgets became tighter, or they simply just wanted to wait until after the pandemic, whenever that might end, which was a pretty hard hit because some of those ticket sales were, a good chunk of my income.
Our offices were open to the public. First of all, I work in property management. So it was kind of, it was normalcy. We were dressed to the nines, we had policy procedures in place, it was all normal business. And then March hit and every location doors closed. We got to dress down, which is kind of my favorite part about all this.
I work for an electrical company. We do residential electrical work primarily. We also do generator installs and a good portion of HVAC work, heating and cooling. Things slowed down quite a bit, but my boss, he did a fantastic job of really trying to balance everything and really trying to keep things moving. So we would be, cleaning things around the shop, reorganizing inventory, just finding some busy work. So I personally did not stop working at all. I still continued to work a solid 40-hour work week.
We had the shutdown in New Jersey. So I was teaching in school, and then, a couple days of, hey, maybe we're going to shut down. Maybe something's going to change. And then all of a sudden, oh, hey, you can't go back to school. And we had to all do it from our houses. So that was a fun change. My one school was kind enough and generous enough to put together like a little art kit for each of my kids. My other school is like a free-for-all of who has markers today, who has crayons today, does anyone have this? And it's like no one has anything, so it's like always interesting. Honestly, we do okay because everything's changed so much as it is, because they're at their own desks. They can't share things, so I'm giving them fewer things, or like I'm giving them very specific organized things, which is weird for me. I'm used to like throwing things on the table and be like, let's get to it. And now it's like, hey, do you have this thing and this thing and this thing paper clipped together? It's changed again though, because we're back in school. At least my school's back in session, so I'm back in the classroom. Looks completely different than normal, because now I'm an art teacher, so my kids used to come to me for every class, blah blah blah. Now I go to them, so I'm art on a cart for the first time in my career. Yeah, and the kids can't share anything, so like everything has changed. It's harder. I'll say it's harder. We make it work because that's what teachers do. You always make it work.
I do think my family and I had it back in March, like mid-March. Because at that point, it was before things had really shut down. My sister was still working at the YMCA with a lot of kids, and she came home sick one day. We thought she had a sinus infection, and working with kids, there's all sorts of stuff anyway. So we thought it was just like something not so severe. And then she passed it to all of us in the house, of course. Even though we all tried to be like really safe. I think it was a very, very mild case, if anything. My parents had it, but not too bad. My sister and I had it the worst because we were in a room together too. So both of us lost our sense of taste and smell. My parents never did. But they just felt like yucky, or like maybe some kind of, again, like we thought it was a sinus infection. So they just felt kind of yucky, but they were better pretty soon. I was sick for a solid 2 weeks, and we, like I said, we lost our sense of taste and smell, and I'd also been really tired. I'd never felt tired like that. Like, I've never had mono, I've never had the flu, so I had never experienced anything like that before, and I was so exhausted. Maybe I should see a doctor about this. So I went on Zoom, because they were only doing Zoom meetings at that point, because while I was sick is when everything shut down. So I went on Zoom, met with my doctor, and I only did it because they said it was going to be like $20 to $40. And I was like, all right, cool. Like, I'll do it. But nobody in my family thought that it was necessary. They were like, no, we don't have it, blah, blah, blah. Right. So I meet with the doctor. I tell her my symptoms. And she said that it wasn't enough symptoms to be able to get a COVID test at that time. Oh. Even though I definitely had some of the symptoms, like taste and smell, fatigue, that stuff.
And that
but
had
I didn't have
just been added. I remember when you told me about taste and smell, and I was like, what? I didn't even hear about that.
Yeah. So I think they were looking for really severe things like trouble breathing and fever and stuff like that, which we didn't really have. Like, my breathing was weird because it felt like I was congested, but I could still breathe. So I didn't have any kind of issues like that. So I think they were just, at that time, since everything was so new, they were just reserving COVID testing for people who had really serious complications, because there wasn't enough testing kits, there wasn't enough knowledge about the virus, there just wasn't enough resources for people to be able to get tested, and especially if you didn't have healthcare, which, again, running my own business, do not have healthcare.
At the start of the pandemic, I moved home, and I kind of was just like sitting it out here, and then so because I'm home, I was worried that I'd give it to my parents, who my dad, who is very dramatic, is like, if I get it, I'm not gonna make it. I'm just like, oh my God, like, don't fucking say that to me.
My mom is one of this like rare scenarios where it's like she really can't get it, and I haven't seen her for since my wedding. I haven't seen her for over a year because of COVID.
Yeah, my mom would definitely always complain about the stupid idiots that are keeping her inside her house because they can't wear a freaking mask, you know.
Her parents are a little bit older, so I think they're both like in their early to mid 70s now.
And where do they live?
They live in South Carolina. Sorry. Her mother has some pre-existing conditions. She has a lung condition, COPD. Mom has been really, really great about quarantining, which is also hard to see her go through, because she's this adorable little woman, so much energy and so much enthusiasm, and she normally was very, very active. She would go to the gym every day too, to make sure she's keeping healthy and keeping her lungs strong. So when the gyms shut down and everything, she bought a treadmill. They stuck it in the bedroom. She's still physically active on a daily basis, but she hasn't left home at all. I think maybe they've gone out golfing a couple of times.
So I have to say, I think that when everyone else had all this extra time, I had less time, because everyone else was, oh, it's lockdown, we can't do anything. And I was, it's lockdown, I have to redo my entire career. What am I going to do? So I spent all this time learning. I guess that's what I learned, learning how to teach in a completely different way.
I've gotten into coding and programming. I took a 5-week boot camp for a Python coding program, which was really awesome.
I've learned nothing. I have never cooked. I've never been a cook.
I did have a chance to bake a loaf of rosemary bread. It was a loaf of Italian bread that came out. It was the first time I've ever baked bread, like legitimately, not like banana bread or something, but a legitimate loaf of bread that needs to rise and has yeast and all the 1,200 steps that I had to do for it. It literally took like a full day to make it. I don't know. It came out to be the most dense, thick bread I've ever had. You could carry it into the ocean with you and probably sink. So
pre-COVID, I wasn't really paying attention to where I was shopping or where I was getting my food from. It didn't really occur to me to think about where I was spending my money. So going out to eat or getting takeout became sort of a very calculated decision, and I wanted to be careful every time I stepped out of the house, making sure that it was always worth my time. And so I've been taking or getting takeout from a lot more local businesses, especially in the last year with a lot of the racial justice movements going on, being more conscientious of supporting Black-owned businesses and Black-owned restaurants, so things like that.
I haven't been inside a restaurant since before lockdown in March. So there's a lot of things that I don't do anymore, just because it doesn't seem like the smartest choice sometimes. Like, I'm not going to go out to a bar, which I used to do, not a lot. Like I said, I didn't go out a lot, but I still go once a month to catch up with friends, and that haven't done that. And I'll get takeout because I still want to support the businesses.
Well, the last time I dined in a restaurant was maybe like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I mean, when I was quarantining, I didn't really help any businesses. Like we cooked all the time. And then when I went back to work, I was like, I want to spend my money on everything, like all the food places that are open.
What was your first time like? Like, was
Oh,
it
my
a
first-
shock?
It was weird. I was kind of nervous because I was like, what do we do? Like how does this work? But it was some like restaurant in Escondido, where my cousins used to live, and it was like a brunch place, and they have this big outside patio area, and we wore our masks to the table, and I like just sat there with my mask still on, and like everyone else with us took their masks off, and I was like, oh, is this what we do? Like, I thought we had to keep our masks on until like the food got there. Like, because then like, the waitress came by with her mask on, and then I was like, I feel like I should talk to her with my mask on. Like, it was weird because then I felt bad for her. Like, she's the only one with a mask on.
I do sometimes get concerned for the waiters because they have to walk over. I mean, they have their masks on, but you're sitting there without a mask while they have a mask on. It's kind of like one of those things like, I don't know, should our masks also be on even though we are sitting? Like, I don't really know. I don't know. I feel bad for them. I'm just like, you guys are going to get it. It's kind of like a double-edged sword. It's like, are we supposed to go out or to support them, or do we not go out to keep them safe?
Like the Delaware Health Department, if someone tests positive and they report that like you might have been compromised, and because they've gone into contact with you, then they will call. They ask a bunch of questions like, are you feeling symptoms, and so on and so forth, and then just tell you to quarantine for 14 days. I had congestion and a headache. Even though I don't have a fever, this call exists. I can't ignore that. I need to get a test.
I've gone and done a few tests.
I think I went October, November, December.
I've been tested for COVID 4 times now.
So the first one was the easiest, but I'm not sure because it was a self one, and because it was like the one of the Walgreens.
Well, the first time I went, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't even know it would be through the drive-thru.
Having no experience in the matter, we were unsure how it was going to work out. Like, we're going in one vehicle. Like, are we allowed to be in the same vehicle together? Do we need to bring 2 separate vehicles? Maybe sometime in just like earlier December.
I was just like, well, let's just do it because Somerset County is offering it for free to residents.
And they were setting up a mobile facility, drive-up facility in one of the Raritan Valley Community College parking lots. Before you go to the testing site, you would fill out a lot of information online and you would register yourself for the testing. And then that's when you would get your appointment.
You don't get to pick your times. They're like, this is what it is.
So we get there and there's a giant line of cars, of course, like, I don't know, maybe 40 or 50 cars in front of us at that point in time.
Sarah, my appointment's in like 10 minutes.
Okay, Sarah, let's look at the scenario here. Okay, it's a mobile pop-up site. Obviously, they give you an appointment time because they need to know how many people are going to be coming in.
Yeah.
At what times. They need to know what kind of numbers they're going to have to deal with in advance, right? I guarantee that not every single one of these cars pulled up 30 or 40 minutes before their appointment time. Let's just take it as it comes, and we're figuring it out. It's all a learning process. It's okay. And we probably waited on that line for maybe 35 minutes at most.
And then like you get checked in, they ask for your last name, and like I think you just showed your phone, and then they give you your number. They put on masking tape and they put it on your windshield. But at that point, it's nurses, like all hazmat suits and everything. Yeah, so it can be very intimidating looking, but I felt completely safe.
Obviously, there comes a point when you have to roll down your window and they give you the swab. Ours were done nasally. It's a weird word.
It was just a nose swab.
You're going to lean your head back a little bit. I'm going to put this swab in each one of your nostrils. I'm going to circle it around a couple of times.
I was kind of facing her, and then she's like, tilt your head back. And I readjust and I look forward and tilt my head back. So she couldn't see my nose.
Oh my gosh.
She's like, why would you think to look forward? I'm like, I don't know. I can't explain
I've never
it.
done this before.
They immediately would put the swab into a test tube, put it in a plastic bag, seal it up. They remove their gloves. So I guess once they took your license information at the site, they would match that to the submitted information upon registration. So they already had all the information that they needed, and then they verified, like, okay, well, that is this person. So this test bag gets matched with that registration form.
Then they tell you, like, they gave you a pamphlet, they gave you paperwork saying that they're going to give you a call.
We're going to call you within the next 4 to 5 business days.
If you miss the call, they're not going to leave you a message, and then you just have to wait until you get the physical test results.
But yeah, so you did get your results by mail. Additionally, the phone call, I think, was just kind of like a courtesy to give you a faster response.
Each time I've gone to the CVS drive-through locations. It's free regardless of whether or not you have health insurance.
I specifically chose this one because after I registered for it, that's when they sent me the breakdown email of, hey, you're going to be going through the drive-through.
You go online to CVS, like Minute Clinic, and you look up a CVS location that does testing, and usually you just put your zip code in and it asks you a few things first before you can see which ones have available time slots. It's like, do you have any symptoms? Like, have you ever been tested before? Have you been exposed to anybody who's been known to have it? Or have you traveled anywhere that is a place that's been known to have it? Then it'll give you a list of CVS locations in your area that have time slots.
It's hard to get an appointment. They only post 2 days ahead. 12:35 a.m. is when they post like the fresh day.
I think they put it today, tomorrow, and the next day. Then they just ask for your information, like your social security number and like your address and your full name, stuff like that, just all your details. And then they'll send you a text message or an email confirmation, however you prefer, to let you know that you've been confirmed for whichever date you've chosen. So then you show up at the date you've chosen and you go up to the drive-through window at the pharmacy.
But you're waiting in the normal drive-through line. What sucks is there is no separate COVID testing line. If you could be stuck behind people who are actually going through the pharmacy to pick something up.
And they might ask you for a confirmation code. Check your ID, so like your driver's license or something. Make sure you are who you say you are. And then they'll slide out in this little tray.
They give you this little bag. It's, the testing kit.
And you've got a couple things in there. So some of them are pamphlets, which you really only need the first time that you go because it tells you how to set up this thing called My Chart for CVS, which is online. You set up an account with a password and everything, and that's going to be the place where you can see all of your appointments, scheduled, upcoming stuff, past ones, and you'll be able to see all your test results on there too. And then you get a plastic bag in there. You pull out a swab, and it's sterile, so you got to open that, and it's kind of long, and
you do not need to shove it up your nose like everyone else does.
That's a different test. You stick it up one side of your nose and you twist it for just a few seconds, and then hold it, and then you hold it there for 15 seconds with your head back a little bit, because the gross part is that you take it out in the same swab, you put it in the other side, and you do.
Are you sure that's how you're supposed to do it?
Yeah, they only give you one swab, and that's what you're supposed to do. And there's a perforation about halfway up the stick.
I'm so grossed out. Not by you, but just oh my God.
I'm trying to be as medically professional with this as possible, Jessica.
Yes.
I'm by no means any kind of medical professional at all. But so anyway, you take the swab and it's got a perforation halfway through, and you just break that off. It's just the plastic end of it, so it can fit in that little tube with the red substance on the bottom that I mentioned. And then you cap that.
And then you put it in this little tubey thing with liquid in it, and then you drop it in the bag.
Stick it in the bag, and there's a rip seal on the plastic bag. And then you take that plastic bag and you put it in, they've got a little box.
And then it goes out to the lab. There's a drop box. The disinfectant wipe they give you is for you to wipe down the drop box after you put it inside. And then you're off. And then my results usually always come within 2 days. I went to this one because I didn't really want to walk inside anywhere, to be honest with you, especially since I did have it. I had a fever. I was like, I don't like, I want to stay here. Like, I need to go somewhere where it's going to be kind of quick and where I'm going to be away from everybody. It was the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. I just woke up with a fever. It wasn't terrible. It was 102, maybe 101. And I wasn't in any condition to go into work. So I call my boss, then I get a call from HR and they're like, you're out for 10 days. I'm like, that I'm fine with that. I did track my symptoms as it progressed. I had the fever for 3 days before I got tested. And, I got the results in a couple days and I was positive. And I had a fever consistently for 7 days. It took 7 days to break. That was the worst of it for me. I took ibuprofen and then, all the vitamins that you have to take, what that doctor suggests. I think it's D and C, and I was on also an immune booster just over the counter. I didn't consult with a doctor, really. I was like, well, I have it. There's no cure for it, so I'm just gonna have to suck it up and that's it. So after my fever broke, or actually maybe I think it was a day or two before my fever broke, I lost my taste. And then a couple of days after that, I lost my smell. I regained both of them rather quickly. And then my last lingering symptom was a cough. But I was not lethargic. I was able to move. I essentially constrained myself to my room until it was done with. By the way, so in my COVID quarantine, I was reading the CDC website a lot about what you can do and precautions, and it actually lingers in your upper respiratory system for up to, I think it's 3 months after I read. And I had never known that because after I was done with it, I went and got tested again, and I was like, I need to go back to work. And I still tested positive, even though I was no longer contagious.
I personally prefer the drive-through ones, but I've never gone to a clinic or like a Walgreens to do a test. Sometimes they're in like high school parking lots. One is Delaware Park, which is like the casino. It's in that part. One was in that parking lot. But this time it was at a high school, and it was in the middle of the day, like around 1 o'clock. So I guess not as many people were out. So it moved pretty fast. Like it took like 15 minutes maybe. Tell them your number for your appointment, and they write it down, and that's the number for your like test. They give you like a little bag, and there's a like tube, and it's got a swab in it, and you pop, like you're supposed to cough 3 times to get like any phlegm up that you might have, and then you like just like wipe it all in your gums and like under your tongue, and then you put it in this like little tube that has, I guess, the liquid, and it's face down. Like you put it face down in the liquid. They'll have you drive up to park to do that little part. So like you're off to the side. Then once you're done, there's like literally a guy outside holding a big trash can, and you like drop it in the trash can and drive off. My husband had a great idea, which is we just took a picture on the plastic bag. They write your number, and we just took a picture of that. So when we get our test results back, we make sure that it matches and that there wasn't like any issue. I haven't heard of that being an issue, but like that made me like, I did check it when I got my positive result. I was like, just for peace of mind. Still didn't have a temperature. I never throughout the process had a temperature. So that whole like that a temperature is needed like vibe that I think some people get, like, oh well, I don't need to worry about it because I don't have a temperature. I don't really know if that is the right approach technically.
At work, we kind of were getting like, we get like waves. We get like, right now we have a classroom that is closed because we had our first employee test positive for COVID. So that classroom's been closed since last week. When the toddler classroom closed, like I remember going in there to help out because they were waiting for a different teacher to come in because she would, the teacher in there was like out of ratio. And I told my boss, and I was like, I was in that classroom the other day for like a few minutes. Like And now I'm in my classroom. Like, I'm like freaking out. And they're like, she's like, you have to be in the classroom for more than like 15 to 30 minutes. And in the back of my head, I'm like, okay, COVID, this is your time limit and it starts now.
Our previous president was talking to people about possible cures, everybody's like heard some of this, like UV, which might be true, or some form of chloroquine. And I believe chloroquine is found in a vaccine for malaria, but a completely different version than what this couple thought that they had happened upon in their aquarium tank. It was like, yeah, I don't know. I think they used it to clean the fish tank or something like that, or however it is. And the couple thought that based on what they had heard, that you might be able to ingest this and be cured from COVID or be like COVID free or something. I don't know. So they drank it, and the husband died because it gave him a heart attack, I think.
Yeah.
And then the woman was hospitalized in, I guess, maybe critical condition. I'm not sure.
I don't know that I've heard anything wild so much as just frustrating, because I hear so much of, that mask doesn't work, right? Oh, it's not as bad as people are saying, or those numbers are made up, or I hear that a lot. And I work in a Catholic school, so I have people that I work with that actually think these things.
To this day, I do still every now and then run into the simple-minded idiot that has, for whatever reason, the strongest inclination to tell me, oh, you do know that the mask doesn't really do anything to protect you, right? Like, I still run into that moron every now and then, and I'm like, it's pretty well advertised that the masks are not intended to protect me. Like, I don't wear a mask to protect me. That's not the point. What I do to protect me is keep myself locked up in the goddamn bedroom every day when I come home from work. Like, that's what I do to protect me. What I do to protect me is remove all of my work clothes, immediately put them in the wash, and jump in the shower when I get home from work.
Yeah.
What I do to protect me is step my ass back when you get too close to my face. Those are things to protect me. My mask is not to protect me. I know this. We all should know this by now. That one just frustrates the hell out of me. And that is a line that I do still constantly receive.
They thought it started with a bat, but then I guess it starts with a P, like Paragon or something like that.
No, that was from South Park. That wasn't real.
Yeah, South Park is legit. They know all their stuff.
I think the craziest or wildest fake news that I have heard about COVID is that the government is putting tracking devices or like microchips to track you in the vaccine. That's not true. That is so fake. The vaccine is safe. Please get it when you can.
Did you get the flu vaccine this year?
I did.
2020? Oh!
I did. And I cannot remember when the last time is that I had received a flu shot.
I think that's so fascinating because like I'm 90% sure like I get a flu shot every year. It's just so like casual for me because we often shop at Target or Walmart, and they always have a sign up front when it's like flu season, and we have our health insurance covers that, and so we get it for free. But I remember we went in like October or something to get our flu shot, and I remember telling our group of friends, I was like, hey guys, got the flu shot, and probably like 4 or 5 of them were like, oh, I've never gotten a flu shot. And I just assumed everybody always got a flu shot. I was so naive.
I guess, it depends on more so than anything. I guess it just depends on the household you grew up in.
Yeah.
My mother was always very avid about flu shots and whatnot, but it's been quite a while since I've lived at home. So it's been a long time since my parents had any real control or influence on my medical standpoint. So just earlier in the winter, actually, it was something that kind of developed over the summer season. I was experiencing some kind of a skin irritation, so I was like, I really should go see somebody about this and try to figure it out. And then it occurred to me, like, I have good medical insurance with the job that I'm in and everything, but I was like, I probably haven't gotten a physical in like over a decade. Like it's been that long since I've seen a doctor for anything at all. So I was like, let me just go make an appointment, go get a physical and get everything checked out and, dot the T's and cross the I's. And just one of the things on the little paperwork that I was filling out was like, have you had a flu shot? Would you like a flu shot? I was like, sure, let's do that. That sounds like a great idea. I can't remember when the last time is that I've gotten a flu shot. So why not?
Do you think now it'll always stick out in your mind? You're like, yeah, 2020, I got the flu shot.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I did experience a little bit of an ill feeling a couple of days afterwards. So I felt a little tired the next day and maybe had a little bit of a sore throat or some slight congestion the day after that. And then that was it. It was fine. It wasn't really anything that altered my life in the moment.
So you weren't mad at the pharmaceutical world?
No. No. That's just silly.
If it became a requirement for my job, I mean, obviously I have like no choice to, but like I'm not required to get a flu shot.
I think that is so wild.
It is.
The kids are always sick. Like you just said, like people are always sick there. Like before COVID, they're kids. Yeah. That's what happens.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And I just felt like, okay, where if I were to go to get a flu test now, I feel like all it would do is make things like worse. Like I would get like sick. Yeah, if I get like I know a lot of people when they get the flu shot, they got sick. Like they get sick like right away.
Your body has to fight it off.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what it's doing.
Yeah, but I think now it's just more scary because okay, if I get sick, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm sick. Like and now I need to go like worry about like getting tested or like all this other stuff. So I don't know. I think if I was older, I'd be like more okay with being like, okay, I need to get the flu shot. But I never, knock on wood, I've never gotten the flu.
I'm not like an anti-vaxxer or anything. I don't know. I've actually never had a flu vaccine in my lifetime. I don't know why. I don't know. It's just never something I thought would ever happen to me, but I guess that's how it starts, right? I mean, I have had the flu in the past.
I've never heard of a vaccine being such a hot topic before, but I've also never experienced a pandemic. I see it kind of two ways. I think like there's a side of me that's like, I don't know what's in there, and I've gotten much more into healthy living this year and using like essential oils for things, or like getting a mattress that's all natural, or just sort of like trying to learn how to take care of myself better.
Have you gotten the flu vaccine?
I've never gotten the flu vaccine, no.
Okay.
My dad's gotten it a few times, but then he'll still get the flu, and I'm like, okay. So part of me is like, how effective are these, plus what's in it, and I don't know, and how does that affect me? But then another part of me is like, well, like if I get a rusty nail stuck in my foot, I want to call the doctor and make sure I have my tetanus shot. So like there are vaccines out there that are incredibly helpful for people, like the tetanus shot or hepatitis B, and we've all gotten those because we had to go to school, and who knows what's in those things. Granted, I think they've had a little bit more time to refine those and really understand not only the disease but also the vaccine and how that affects it. So I don't know. I'm a little torn. I don't know about COVID for a lot of things, but I know that we now have 2 other strains, one from Britain and one from somewhere else. And so I imagine they'll have to develop another vaccine for those strains too. And I don't know. I don't think so. Even if I were to consider getting it, it wouldn't be for a while, right? I'm 31. I'm healthy. I don't have any sort of like complications. I would be one of the last people to receive it whenever it's made available to the general public. So like by then I imagine maybe they'll know enough and have had administered it to enough people to see like if there's what side effects there are and things like that. I know that some people are freaking out about some of the side effects being that it makes you sick. But I've also learned that they have to put the virus in the vaccine so that your body can also learn to fight against it. And so that's why people get more sick when they get it. because your body is trying to understand it, I think. Again, if there's more strains, they'll have to do that maybe a few different times or different ways, but I don't know. So I don't know. I'm not a medical professional. I can't give like an opinion. I think it shouldn't be mandated, I don't think people should be forced to get it. But if you're not going to get it, then what are you doing to protect yourself and other people from it? Mm-hmm. Are you washing your hands? Are you taking care of yourself in other ways and just being hygienic? Right. So I feel like you can't have it both ways. You can't argue this thing is so bad, like I don't want this vaccine, I don't know what's in it, blah blah blah, and then like turn around and walk out of the bathroom without washing your hands. Like you can't, I don't know, some of the way something has to be effective.
I am like so on the fence. I'm like so weeble wobbled. Like I have no problem with getting vaccines. I think it's great. What not bothers me, but what kind of like scares me is that you have to do it like 2 doses. Like,
yeah.
So I don't know anything about both of the vaccines, because there's like 2 different kinds, but both of them like require like 2 doses, and then one requires it to be like refrigerated. I don't know, maybe I'm not up to date on anything, but I'm like, from like what the news has said, I'm like, what is going on?
I don't have any health issues, like, so again, I'm not in a rush to get it. Like, I'd like to see more people get it that do need it.
I would like to get the vaccine. My biggest question right now is if Darren and I are planning on having children in the near future, like the safety of if I am pregnant. Yeah. That's like my kind of like concern about it, because it's like, okay, what if I am not during the first shot, but then I am during this? Like, it's just a lot of questions for like, if I am pregnant, so I might end up waiting till after.
Regardless of what fears there may be, it's saving lives. What is more important than that? What is more important than preserving human life? Like, and that's the big picture. And a lot of people just would rather focus on the small aspects that affect their personal life. And it's not about you right now, man. It's about the world. It's about mankind, and that's what you really got to think about.
As we're inching closer to the end of this thing, both the episode and the pandemic, fingers crossed, I will humbly admit that I've learned a lot about myself and the people around me in the past year. And while there are some things I cannot wait to get back to, there are some new things that I'm going to carry with me into this new normal.
You know what? Here's one thing. I think one thing that maybe it's just me, is going to be weird is when we start to like reintegrate back into society.
Yeah.
And we have to get used to being around people with like their whole face out.
Yeah.
I think that some things should stick around. Like, I think that not wearing a mask all the time, but I think that when we're sick, wearing a mask would be a good thing to continue doing. It's something that a lot of other countries already do. It's just like, so I wouldn't mind that sticking around. I'm not getting the flu this year, so.
The biggest thing that I miss the most is just hugs. I miss hugs so much. I am a hugger.
You are a hugger.
I am so big on physical contact.
Yes.
I've always felt that just the power of touch is so influential in so many ways. Just a good solid handshake, or when somebody's feeling down and you just go, you put your hand on their shoulder, and it extends so much more energy outside of the eye contact, when you're really just trying to connect with somebody and trying to share that message that like, hey, I want to be here for you. Everything's going to be fine. The power of physical touch is just, there's not much that compares to it. And that's been a huge thing for me that I miss so much.
My partner graduated from law school last year. And she didn't get a graduation ceremony. We didn't get to celebrate that or have a party for her. I had to push back my wedding. With friendships, I'm trying harder to stay connected with people, with family, because I can't see them in person. making more of an effort to stay in touch with them through like FaceTime and things like that, and making more time for myself and trying to understand, what are my priorities? What are things that actually bring me joy? What are things that are worth stressing about? What's not worth stressing about? Just opening up with friends a little more, being more, gentle with myself because this is a rough time for everyone. Keeping my mental wellness in check and things like that.
I took like a aerial silks class the end of 2019. I took like a class. So then I started going with Holbrook and took like a few more classes since then. And then like mid-March, I was like, okay, this is going to be the last class for a while.
So when did you start going back to classes?
Probably end of September. I think I ended up texting you. I was like, oh my God, like I just got back to it and I feel more like myself because I know that I was struggling for a while. I didn't want to talk about it necessarily because I know everyone was struggling with it. I don't think we were equipped.
That's not a good excuse.
Necessarily.
Oh.
No. I mean, no one's really equipped. I know. it's again, this is just stuff that I like internalize of like people have it way worse than me. Like suck it up. Like you have, I still have my job to help pay my bills. Like I have my own house. Yeah. So like I didn't want to complain too much. And I know everyone was going through it. So it's like, you're not special here in this case. Like we're all struggling together. Yeah, I get like that sometimes. But then like once I got back to doing like the aerial classes, I was like, oh, this is what I needed.
Is there some like saying, I don't necessarily know, but it's almost like if it's not your war, don't fight it. But like it's been, and like you can't like change everyone's minds, but you have to just be smart to what you are, like smart to what is your circumstance, what is your comfort zone, what is your emotional, physical, like just smart, true to you. And I think that's hopefully what a lot of people have tried to learn is to be true to themselves throughout this pandemic.